The wind had sharpness that morning, and it pierced through the seams of David Shepard's coat as he rode alongside the train tracks that bordered his southern field. Clouds the color of pewter were streaked across the sky like someone had tried to erase the sun. His horse snorted, then paused. David saw it, then, a shape lying motionless beside the steel rails, small and out of place against the winter dust. He dismounted without thinking, boots crunching over frost-laced gravel, and approached. She was curled into herself, her dress torn at the bottom edge, hair matted to one side where blood had dried thick. There was something written across her face, not exactly pain, but a kind of quietness earned only after fighting not to cry for too long. Her lips were pale and cracked. He bent down beside her, and that's when he saw the note pinned to her collar in neat, unfeeling handwriting. "Do not return her to our family." She stirred. "Take it easy," David murmured. Her eyes opened slowly and without focus, the color of ash mixed with river water. She blinked at him as if she wasn't sure if he was real. Her mouth tried to form words, but nothing came. Her breath made a fog in the cold. David didn't ask what happened, didn't need to. He saw enough in her face, the broken kind of silence that doesn't come from impact, but desertion. He slipped his arms under her gently. She flinched once, but did not resist. Her body weighed less than it should, but more than he expected. Disgrace, he thought, had its own weight. He carried her to the horse and lifted her onto the saddle, holding her steady with one arm as he climbed behind her. She didn't ask where they were going, and he didn't tell her, but somehow they both knew it wasn't backward. The house was simple, wooden beams worn by years, windows smeared by wind. He laid her on his late wife's bed. The fire had long since turned to embers, but he brought it back with kindling and care. She slept through it all, shivering even in sleep, too still to be peaceful. Later, when the fire had grown strong again, she stirred. Her eyes opened to the wooden beams above. "I'll be gone by morning light," she whispered. "You will if you want to," David replied softly, setting a bowl of warm soup by her side, "but not before you've recovered a bit." She looked at him as if she didn't believe kindness could come without a cost, as if she'd been taught every act of help was connected to cruel interest. He said nothing more, just placed a quilt, his wife's old one, stitched with vines and stars, over her shoulders. That night, David stayed in the rocking chair beside the fire. She mumbled in her sleep. "I didn't mean to bring shame to them," she said into the darkness. "I just wanted to breathe." He looked into the fire and thought about the first winter without Mary, how he'd sit just like this, hands open, waiting for a sign that the silence wouldn't last forever. He glanced at the woman on the bed and wondered what kind of family cast off their own flesh like freight, and what kind of life taught someone to whisper apologies into sleep. At first light, she tried to stand. He heard the floor squeak and turned just in time to see her wobble on a bruised ankle. She muttered under her breath and reached for the door. "Ankle's not good," David said, not unkindly. "The support sticks are in the corner." She stopped, motionless. Pride and panic fought on her face. He didn't move. He let her choose. Eventually, she hobbled over, grabbed the sticks, and limped her way to the porch. He watched through the window as she sat in the sunlight, face blank but tilted upward, like she'd forgotten what genuine light felt like. That afternoon, she fed the chickens with slow, deliberate movements. Every limp was a prayer of stubborn dignity. She never asked his name, and he didn't ask hers. But when he brought her supper, he said, "My name is David." She looked down at the bowl. "Lenora?" He nodded, not pressing for more. The days slid by quietly and without rush. Lenora swept the porch each morning, even with a limp, even when the wind scattered her work before she'd finished. One afternoon, he found her in the barn, brushing the horse with slow, respectful strokes. "She likes you," he said. "She's the first thing that didn't pull away when I came close." David didn't reply, but the silence between them grew easier to wear, like an old jacket. One morning, he noticed her gazing at the rocker on the porch, Mary's old seat, undisturbed since the funeral. Lenora walked toward it. She paused. She stepped away, but 2 days later she sat, just once, just long enough to rock forward and back, until her shoulders stopped curling in on themselves. He didn't say a word, but he saw it. It was in town that the world reminded her she didn't belong. David took her with him to the feed store. The moment they stepped off the wagon, whispers spun like dust. "That's the girl left by the 1010 rail. She doesn't even wear a ring. She was always trouble, that one." Inside, the shopkeeper didn't greet her. He spoke to David as if she wasn't there. "You sure about this, bringing her into town?" David said nothing, but rested his hand gently between her shoulder blades, as if he was protecting her from a bullet that hadn't been fired yet. Lenora finally looked up. Her voice was level, but thin with self-control. "They can whisper all they want. I'm not going to break again." David nodded, his voice low. "Then let them whisper until their speech goes dry." That night, as the fire crackled and the wind played with the window latch, Lenora stood beside the flames, holding a letter she'd found in her bag. Her fingers trembled as she unfolded it. The handwriting was elegant, the words were sharp. "You are no longer welcome. Your shame is yours alone." But at the bottom, scribbled in a different hand, "I still light a candle for you every Sunday. A." David entered the room and paused when he saw her standing there, letting her tremble. He didn't ask. She didn't offer. She just whispered, "What if I never get back who I was?" He stepped beside her, not touching, just near. "Maybe who you were wasn't what you needed to be." She turned her face toward him, but not all the way. The firelight softened the edges of her jaw, made her look less like a stranger and more like someone developing. Her hand reached down, not for his, but near it, close enough to feel warmth, but not claim it. In the morning, he found her in the barn again. This time she was fixing one of his shirts, her stitches neat but trembling. "If I'm staying," she said, "I might as well earn my keep." David stood in the doorway, hat in hand. "Then I'll put another chair at the table." That evening, as the sky turned copper and blue, she walked to the fire pit outside with the letter in hand. She looked at it one last time, then let the flames take it. The ink curled into smoke. The shame turned to ash. David watched from the porch, arms folded. When she returned, she didn't explain. She just sat beside him, the quilt around her shoulders. He didn't ask for more. "I think," she said quietly, "the train didn't destroy me." "No, it delivered you." They sat in silence, save for the quiet squeak of the rocker. The wind passed over the porch, soft now, more like a gentle sound than a loud cry. Her boots rested beside his. The fire crackled, and the world didn't need to know what was spoken between them in silence. Some women are rescued by nights. Others are rescued by porches, warm hands, and a silence that never once asked them to clarify their shame. And if anyone were to ask what David Shepard saw in the girl beside the rails, he'd probably just say, "Enough to carry her home, and enough to never let go again." If this story stirred something in you, a memory, a silence, a second chance, don't leave without leaving a mark. Like the video, share it with someone who still believes in quiet kindness, and subscribe for more tales where dignity rises from dust and hearts heal under wild skies.